Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just get started. Morgan, how about we catch up on the podcast? You want to do that?
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So I never do an intro, but I'm going to do an intro on this one. So we're back with another episode of the AgeDEFY Way podcast. And today I'm very excited because today's podcast is going to be slightly different. We are here with AgeDEFY member Stephanie and her daughter, Morgan. They are both traveling. Where are you guys in Arizona right now?
In Sedona, Arizona.
Sedona,
Well, I
Arizona.
live here, but they're visiting me.
Right. Yeah. Morgan lives there, and Stephanie is visiting Morgan. And what I love so much is that Stephanie and I just finished 2 classes together, 2 workouts together today, and that Stephanie took her. We had step flow and mobility flow, and Stephanie took her AgeDEFY stuff with her to Sedona so she could join classes today and do the classes on the road. So that's the power of AgeDEFY in our community, and that's what I love. And that's why I'm doing this podcast, because I want to tell the stories of my AgeDEFYers. I want to tell the love stories and the experience of AgeDEFY, because I think the way we do things is a little bit different, and it's hard to maybe know where to step in and how to step into our community. And I thought if I shared the story of our community, that people who are new to AgeDEFY would be more comfortable to kind of dive into the program and try all the things. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. So before we get into the questions that I sent you, I would like to connect to Morgan and your daughter, because Morgan and I actually know each other from back in the day in Denver,
Yeah.
Right? So Morgan, do you want to kind of explain how even I got with Stephanie, how I'm working with your mom now and how we know each other?
So I first met Donnell, God, I don't even know, like maybe 15 years ago, like a long time ago. And she was teaching yoga sculpt at Core Power Yoga. And I was taking class and I went through the teacher training, and I was so inspired by the way that she taught and just her power and energy. And she definitely was kind of like a role model for me as I became a yoga teacher myself. I'm now actually a physical therapist, and I live in Arizona, and I practice PT here. And, I want my mom to stay mobile and fit and healthy as she gets older. Not that much. You're not that old yet.
It's all in my mind.
But it's all in your mind. You're only as old as you feel. That's the truth. And I want her to have something that she can do every day that's going to keep her mobile, that's going to keep her spine mobile, because I know that Donnell talks about that all the time. And I think that is so important and so true. As a PT, I see so many immobile spines that are just stuck in this kyphotic position, and people get stuck, and I don't want my mom to be stuck. So when Donnell started doing her classes that were online, it was kind of the perfect opportunity for my mom to jump in, especially in the midst of COVID when there was nothing open, and continue her own movement practice and stay mobile as she gets older. Because like I kind of alluded to before, I really do think you're only as old as you feel.
Well, that's one of my AgeDEFY taglines: move young, live young, right? It's like, it doesn't matter your age. If you are moving with strength and control and flexibility, and you're agile and you can move at all speeds, and you're really connected and a body aware, age just does not matter. The number does not matter. And that is the whole idea. And do you think your mom's moving young?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of adventures do you guys do together? Because you guys do a lot of adventures together, right?
We do. And today we're going to go mountain biking together.
We are.
Okay. And Stephanie just did a step flow class, which drenched me. I was literally so sweaty. So she did step flow, and then she just did another 45-minute mobility flow, and we worked on crow and camel pose. And now they're going to go on a mountain biking.
Yes.
That's living young. That's it. That is living young. This is so awesome. So, and I just want to say that Morgan bought her mom a gift card for Christmas to privately train with me. We did 4 sessions.
I forgot about that.
Yes, that's how it actually started.
That is how it started.
So I want to say thank you to Morgan, because so Stephanie, how long have we been together now, though?
Almost 2 years. Do you think?
Yes, almost 2 years.
Maybe longer than that, because you were taking Donnell's classes at the studio and she was teaching in person.
That started. I'm thinking it started.
It was around Christmas, because it was a Christmas card. I know that. I know it was a Christmas gift.
2019. So it's about
pretty
2 years.
crazy.
Okay, right. Yeah.
Pretty crazy. And I just want to say Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Morgan because, Stephanie, I get to see her almost on a daily basis. We've become, we're a community, and I love it so much. And yeah, 2, 3 years later, here we are still. And, it only was just 4 sessions, and now, and now, Stephanie, how many classes do you come to online a week?
I do 4 a week, and then I pick up the Live Strong recorded videos.
Oh, you're
So,
doing the strong workouts right now.
yes, yes.
And how are those going for you?
Really well. I'm enjoying them. I do enjoy working with free weights, but I'm not. I have to work up to being able to use the really heavy weights. So I'm not using using as heavy a weight as you suggest in your videos, because I'd rather do more reps with less weight than the weights with less reps. Just kind of how I'm feeling right now, but I'm enjoying it very much.
Yes, and so everything we do at the studio is adjustable, right? It's not we don't modify. We make little adjustments for what works for us, right? And I encourage and I teach my students to be their own coach. So even if they're doing a video or a live class, they have these zones that they get to work in, and I tell them stay in your zone, because until you get into that zone and that zone becomes easy, you can't skip zones. And if you do, you could get injured, because what we do could be looked at as dangerous. But if you work the process and stay in the zones, it's medicine. And do you agree with that, Stephanie? What do you think about that?
Very much so. I feel like at my age, I have nothing to prove. And I actually like doing the work online, because I also don't compare myself to other people. I'm just focused on what you're doing, what you're saying, and I'm not looking at anybody else. So I feel very comfortable staying in the zones that I feel good about, because I don't feel like I have to prove anything. And I do feel like eventually I gain strength, I gain endurance, and I can step up to the next zone.
And that's what I wanted to say. When you are ready for that 20-pound weight, you will be ready for it. So I love that you're using the lighter weights to learn the movements first, because strong. So Morgan, just so you know what strong is, this community has been with me for 2 to 3 years now. I mean, they were ready for the next level. So, and I had people coming to me going, I'm thinking about lifting heavier. Should I start lifting heavier weights? And instead of sending them away and to work with other people, I created a heavyweight movement therapy strength training program. So everything we've done is prepared these members for this. But I love what Stephanie's saying, that she's just not ready for that 20-pound weight yet, but doing the program anyway, which is the next level and the next zone for you. And that is awesome. So I can't wait. I'm hoping that by next year, when we do this podcast again, you're telling me you're at the 30-pound weight. But we'll get there. Yeah, we'll get there, because that's going to be one of our questions, right? So, what are your goals? So Morgan, how's PT going? I know that's new for you and stuff. So, I mean, not new. You've been going to school forever and stuff, and you've been doing it. But how's it going? I know. I feel like you were just in school forever.
Oh, I was in school forever. But I've been practicing since early 2020. I started practicing PT right as COVID hit, which was kind of an interesting time to be a new practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going really well. Right now, I'm actually, most of my practice is focused on foot and ankle, but I also do see a pretty big amount of spine. And I notice a lot of trends with my spine patients. So I'm just fixing our video. I feel like the sun is going up, so it kind of keeps just like, I do see a lot of trends with spine patients. And there are actually some trends that I noticed with my mom early on. And I'm just going to turn to the side, because I'm sure you've talked to your clients and students about this, right? But this is the trend. Like rounded back, forward head. From years of sitting at a computer, gravity is just pulling us forwards. And I say to my patients all the time, you have to fight gravity every single day. You have to fight it, right? You have to extend, you have to open, you have to strengthen your posterior chain, because if you don't do it every day, gravity is going to win, right? It's a constant practice every single day. And that's part of the reason why I actually did end up referring my mom to you, because she was an office worker at the time and at a computer every day, and she was starting to have some of those issues. And I was like, oh geez, I'm not in Colorado, I can't be there, to whip her into shape. So I'm going to send her to someone who I know and trust, who really can.
Well, we haven't talked like this in a long time, but I want you to know that everything you're saying is exactly what I tell them all the time. Never let it gravity pull on you. You have to meet it, right? And we do these things now, posture training. So I've got resistance bands, and we're doing all this posture training for our upper V muscles because of that spine trend that you're talking about. But to also, I think a lot of the spine problems lead from the feet and the ankles. So I love that that's your specialty, because I feel like I'm so passionate about healthy feet that I feel like I'm the only one talking about it. But now I'm very excited to hear that you're talking about it. So what are you seeing in people's feet? Like, what's happening?
Yeah. So, one big thing that I see a lot is actually lack of big toe mobility.
Oh my goodness, Stephanie.
Yeah.
We talk about the big toe all the time.
Oh, do you?
All the time.
Yeah. And like, if you don't have big toe mobility, so I look for a minimum of 60 degrees of big toe extension. And if you don't have that mobility, that's going to affect your dorsiflexion, your ankle mobility, right? Because you won't be able to fully undulate through your foot when you're walking if your big toe isn't moving. And then if you're losing your ankle mobility because your big toe isn't moving, I see people start to pronate, like rolling in on their inner arch. And then from there, it just kind of moves up the chain. The knee internally rotates and falls inwards. The hip internally rotates, and that puts tension and torsion on the sacrum and the low back. So it really, some patients it starts with the low back, some patients it starts with the foot, but it definitely all comes together either way and just leads to problems throughout the entire chain. So, a big part of my job is trying to figure out, well, where is it starting? Like, where do we need to fix first? But I find that, if I have someone who's got back pain and poor big toe mobility, sometimes I can fix their big toe mobility and work on their strength up the chain and their gait, and their back pain goes away.
Oh, so see, we're so similar, because I tell my students all the time, where it is, it isn't, right? Where if you have back pain, I'm not going to fix your back. We need to be fixing your feet. Everyone always asks me, where do I start if I have sciatic pain? I always say, with your feet. With your feet. That is always what I say. If you go through my TikTok videos, people will say it all the time. What do I do about knee pain? Fix your feet. What do I do about shoulder pain? Fix your feet. What do I do about migraines? Fix your feet. I am telling you, we are so aligned on this. I can't.
For sure.
So you're feeling my excitement, because like I said, sometimes I just feel like I'm alone talking about this, because I get so many people's responses like, I've never had anybody tell me that before. So I am so glad that we're connected, and I'm so glad you're saying that how important it is for big toe connection. Now, I don't talk like you. I don't tell them that kind of stuff, like the 60%, all that kind of stuff, but I make them do things that will improve their range of motion,
Sure.
right? And I talk just about big toe, connecting the big toe to the ground so that they have foot stability, because I think people lack foot stability, and that's the reason why there's pain up the chain, like you're saying.
Oh, absolutely. And I know barefoot training is something that you're very passionate about too. And I always encourage people to barefoot train. Like when I have patients in the PT gym for pretty much any issue, I'm like, take your shoes off. Step one, take your shoes off. We're going to exercise barefoot today. And
We do
it's so
step flow
important.
barefoot. We do step flow barefoot. I mean, we do everything barefoot.
Yeah. And it can be a tough transition for folks. Like it's sometimes you take your shoes off and it doesn't feel good to be barefoot right away, because a lot of folks have spent their entire life wearing these orthotic shoes that give them so much support. And it's kind of like having crutches your whole life. When you get rid of those crutches, you're not going to feel natural with your walking. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel off. It might even feel kind of painful. And so a lot of what I do is encouraging people to go through the steps of building their foot strength so that they can tolerate spending more time barefoot. And I definitely am a huge proponent of barefoot shoes as well.
Me
I
too.
wear them all the time myself.
I have a pair on my AgeDEFY Amazon shop. They're so good. And big toe boxes, like, because I work with a lot of people with bunions. So I think bunions are a big problem in our society. And so I work a lot with that. And it's not that I'm trying to heal the bunion, because once it's there, we know we can't do anything with it, but we can stop the progression of it, because it can get worse, right? So
Absolutely.
so I work with that a lot. And so not everyone should be barefoot. And even in step flow, I have barefoot shoes that I suggest for them to do a transition from full-time tennis shoes, right? But eventually it works. The more you're barefoot, the better it gets. The more you move, the better it gets, right?
Yeah, it takes time, takes commitment, but yeah, I mean, if you're willing to put the steps and the work in, it absolutely, I think that in the long run, having more of a barefoot practice is definitely going to benefit.
But the long run is what we need to be thinking about. So Stephanie, how's your feet feeling? You've been doing barefoot work with me forever. then?
Yeah, when I first started doing the foot therapy with you, it was a little surprising because I felt things I never felt before in my feet. But I right away I realized the benefit of it. I have one friend in particular who has very bad neuropathy in her feet, which causes her to not be able to walk very well, and she's very afraid of losing her balance. And after doing foot therapy with you, I just think this is something you have to do to keep your feet alive. I mean, and
Yes.
I don't know the technicalities of it at all, but just from the consumer's point of view, it makes me feel like I'm keeping my feet alive. And the feelings that I get now when we do foot therapy it feels good. It feels healthy.
Oh my
And I feel
goodness, Morgan, does this just make your heart beat so fast?
Hey, Mom.
Yes. All right. I actually sent them a list. I actually do a list of questions to my AgeDefyers, and I sent the one to Stephanie. And so I'm going to ask the first question. We need to know people's age, because I want people to know that AgeDefy is for everyone, but I also want people to know that people in their 50s and 60s and 70s are living some really awesome lives, right? Because of movement. So Stephanie, what's your age?
I'm 68.
Oh, I did not know that.
I know. How'd I get here?
No, I'm just taken aback because it's just 68. I mean, Morgan, right? I was just like, that's not what we thought. 68. Oh, maybe you grew up with your mom. So, and my mom is so young too. But I mean, it's just like you just don't think 68 is taking step flow and mobility flow and then going mountain biking on a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. Like it just blows my mind. And we are redefining what age looks like, and not like with minus the wrinkles or the gray hair, but about the fact that we can live young at 68 and have adventure and feel good.
Yeah.
And feel strong.
Yeah. I had a good role model in my mother. She lived to be 100, and she just passed away last year. So it was, watching her in her final years was really interesting for me. She never exercised really in her life. That generation of women didn't quote unquote exercise, but she was very active and she loved to walk. She walked a lot. And she had a very young mind, and she just, if she wanted to do something, she just did it. She never felt she was old. She would get mad if you implied she was old. And that's always had a big influence on me. I've always felt like there's so much value in living young, and it's in your head, really. That's where it starts. It's a mindset, and if you don't have the mindset, then it is very difficult to be motivated to work out, to exercise, to stay active. So,
and actually, when I think she was like 95 or 96, and my cousin posted a picture of her on Facebook, doing like a 1-minute forearm plank hold.
Just because she didn't really train for it, but it's because somebody challenged her or something.
Yeah,
she did
exactly.
it. Yeah.
She's like, I'm going to do it.
So I think, it's so lucky that people have that mindset. I try to help people because I think a mindset is practice just as much as a bicep curl is practice, right? So I always say this is the reason why we challenge ourselves to body ability, things like crow and camel and some of the things we cannot do, because when you're able to conquer those in movement, you get that mindset of like, I can conquer anything no matter what. And that's that mindset of that I have this power within that keeps you young. So, that is the whole connection of the movement and the mind, in my opinion, right? Yeah. To get that mindset, because not everyone has those role models, right? You're lucky you had her as a role model, but not everyone does. So I believe that movement is that answer to that mindset, right? But you have to, it's that process. You have to start, right? And you have to commit to it.
Right. And I think the commitment is a huge thing, because once you commit, you develop a consistent routine, a consistent pattern. And if you don't commit and develop a consistent routine, you don't see progress. So you don't feel like you can do very much. You don't feel like you can go further. You sort of lose the ability to think about staying active, staying young.
Yes. And then as soon as you go kind of stagnant, your mind goes stagnant, and that's the aging process. That's what I believe, right?
Yeah.
That's just what I believe. All right. So I want to ask you, Stephanie, what are your favorite AgeDefy workouts or workout? What's your favorite one? Do you have a favorite one?
Gosh, I really like mobility flow because I do have, from years of sitting at a desk, I have a very stiff spine, and I do need a lot of posture training to kind of correct what all those years of leaning forward into a computer. So mobility flow, I think, is great, is really wonderful for me in that regard. But I do like step because when you talk about brain training, oh my gosh, I am terrible at remembering choreographies and step patterns. I'm terrible at that. And so from a brain point of view, that's a huge challenge for me. And I find I make progress if I just stick to it, and practice in between classes. And I use the videos online and try to practice the steps. And I feel like I do make progress with my brain.
How was today? How was today?
Today was pretty good. I don't always, I screw up a lot, I should say. But one time in one class, you said, you've always said it's okay to mess up. You just jump back in. And you compared it one day to like jump roping, which at my age, I can relate to that, because when I was a kid, we jump roped a lot. And you fall out of the jump rope, you've got double dutch, and you fall out, and you just watch the rope, and you wait for your opportunity to get back in. Mm-hmm. And so that really illustrated how it's okay to fall out. You just wait and you get back in when you can. And so that makes me awesome. Feel comfortable. Yeah.
Does step feel like dancing to you a little bit?
Like dancing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And so in my mind, I try to make it like dancing, because again, I'm not a dancer, but I try to say, okay, just go with it and feel the beat. And so
that's so awesome. And a lot of people struggle with not being able to do something immediately. And that's the problem with people coming into my world, because I have such strange ways of moving the body that no one can do it immediately. And then if they feel that way, then they just stop, right? They get frustrated. So Stephanie, I love what you're saying, is like, you said you've struggled with step this whole time, but yet you keep showing up, you keep practicing. And so what would you have to say to people that would struggle with not being able to do something when they first start AgeDEFY?
Oh, I would say it's just a matter of sheer force of will. If you really want to make progress, just keep coming back. I always call it sheer force of will. And it may not be fun for a while, but then as you see yourself making progress, you start to really be proud of yourself, and it starts to become fun.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's why we do what we do. That's why we have to go through the suck, because the other side of it just is so awesome. And nothing that it comes easy is worth having, but the stuff that comes hard and you get through it, that's like yours then, right? And that's yes.
Well, and I want to say the body is extremely adaptable too, right? Like our bodies adapt so well to different environments and to change, and not right away. It takes a lot of time, but I think if you stick with really any practice that you choose to do, your body is going to adapt and you will figure it out. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time.
What Stephanie's saying, the willingness to not do it right, the willingness to suck, the willingness to not be fun right off the bat, right? I think that's what we need to practice more. People need to have the more willing to do these things that they can't do.
Yeah.
And Morgan, don't you think in the line? So what age group are you working with?
Oh man, I work with, I would say, anywhere from 14 to 95.
So you're working with young sport injuries then, probably, I'm assuming, huh?
I see a lot of young sport injuries, but then I also see a lot of older folks, like ankle fractures with internal fixations, everything from that to, postural degeneration. So it's really a wide range of ages and diagnoses.
And so when they come to meet with you, are they coming to 1 session a week, 2 sessions a week? Like, how does that work?
Oh God, it really depends. To be honest with you, I would say anywhere from 1 to 3 sessions a week, just depending on what they need. It really depends. And then we usually, if we start with like 2 or 3 sessions a week, as they get more independent, we'll kind of go down to 1. And then I like to transition people out of PT into something kind of like what you do, right? Like, I don't like to just be like, okay, bye, you're healed
Yeah.
and you're discharged. I like to have kind of a plan for what they're going to do next. Because like with PT, I can't see them forever. That's not what my profession is. I'm not intended to see them forever, but I feel like, they can't be done with PT and then just have nothing. And that's actually a question I get all the time. Like, I'll give people exercises to do and they'll say, well, how long do I need to do these exercises? And my answer is, well, you don't have to do these exact exercises, but you do have to do something for every day for the rest of your life.
Yes. I mean, Morgan, you and I are seriously talking to our communities and our people the same way. I mean, I just made a TikTok video where I was like, you have to move your body every day.
Mhm.
This whole idea of 3 days a week is all you need to be fit and to live fit forever is wrong. Now, listen, I'm not saying you should do CrossFit 7 days a week. I'm not saying you should run marathons 7 days a week, but you have to move your body every single day. There are no days off on this, right?
Right. Yeah, it's every day. I agree.
Yeah. I hesitate to ask this question because I don't want us to get into it, like take up the whole podcast, and we could, and maybe we'll come back and just do a podcast about this. But I have a series on this on TikTok, so my voice is already in it. I do not agree with doctors or PTs sending their people to yoga studios and yoga classes. And the reason why I say that is because I know the culture. Most people that are in pain or injured are wanting to go to like beginner yoga classes because they don't even know how to do yoga. But as we know, most studios employ their brand new teachers to teach beginner classes. It's not an experienced teachers that's teaching beginner courses. Plus, most likely their yoga teacher has never experienced the pain that they've been in before. So how do they even, and I just don't know if just going to yoga is the appropriate plan for people that are in pain and people like doctor. I have so many people. My doctor told me to do yoga. I went to him because I had back pain or a sciatic pain, and he said to do yoga. So then I went and did yoga for a few weeks at the studio, but my back hurts more, and that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying this. So what does that feel like? What's coming up for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, back pain is such a wide diagnosis. Like there's so many different pain generators that could lead to just, back pain, right? And I agree. I mean, I think if you have back pain and you go to yoga, maybe it will get better if it's something that's a little more simple and maybe you just have some tight muscles that need to be stretched, but maybe there's a deeper pain generator that yoga is going to make worse. And I think that just saying, well, a yoga class is going to address my pain, that's such an oversimplification of your body because there's so many different reasons that you could be feeling the pain that you're feeling. So I agree. I would never, if a back pain patient came to me and said, I want to do yoga, I wouldn't just be like, okay, cool, go to yoga. We would have to talk about, well, what postures work for you? What don't? What's your pain generator? And it would be a more complex conversation than that.
Yeah. I like that. I just, so far, I haven't heard that complex conversation is being had. That,
No,
that's,
I don't think it is.
Yeah. Right now, it's just go to yoga and there's no guidance. I feel like there's got to be some sort of guidance. To be honest, I think that they should work. I think if you're in pain, you should search for a coach or a yoga teacher, of whether it's someone like me or a yoga teacher who has experienced pain themselves too. I really do. I think that I just do. I mean, how do you feel about that? Have you ever been injured?
I have, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I've ever been seriously injured, which is actually a disadvantage for me as a PT because I've actually never broken a bone and I work with a lot of people who have fractures, right? And I can't understand what they're feeling on a personal level. I can certainly empathize, but I definitely don't understand how that feels. So I would say that is one of my weaknesses actually as a therapist. But I think in terms of the back pain, go to yoga thing, pain is a symptom of a functional problem, right? So pain, you don't just have pain willy-nilly. It's not just like coming out of the blue, right? You're not just going to wake up one day and like pain, pain, pain. Well, maybe you will, but that's a symptom of something deeper, right? So there's something deeper functionally going on there. And I think that working with an experienced therapist or coach or someone who's experienced the pain before, so they have that understanding, whether it's from a personal level or maybe from like a professional level on like me, I don't have the personal experience, but I understand it professionally, biomechanically. that's probably a better way to address that pain, because you need to figure out the functional deficit that's leading to it, not just, oh, go to yoga and stretch it out.
Yeah, I think a combination of the two of us would be so good, because I talk mainly from my pain, right? What I learned from my pain. Now, I taught yoga for years, but before my pain, so that's part of my formula. It's inside of me, right? But the pain has made me the coach I am today, right? I have learned how to move my body and get around some limitations that I just never knew before I experienced my hips, right?
Yeah.
So
and sometimes surgery is the answer. Sometimes it is. Sometimes
I love
it's not.
surgery.
Yeah.
I love surgery. My new hips are the best thing that could have ever happened to me, but I needed those 5 years to prepare for that. I think my new hips are good for me because of what I did before. I do think there should be prehab, physical therapy, rehab, and a post-hab. I think that we need, and post-hab is forever, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't end,
It
right?
is,
These
yeah.
two end, but the post-hab never ends. It's a forever time. And that's what I've been been starting to say. AgeDEFY is a lifetime. It's not a 1 month program. It's not a 12 week program. It's a lifetime, right? So Stephanie, I want to ask you, what do you like the best, live classes or online videos?
Well, I definitely like the live classes the best, although they're both way up there for me, because with the live classes, I love the motivation from you. I love the things that you tell us in a live class. I love feeling like I am exercising with a community. There's a sense of connection there, even though I don't pay attention to who's in the class that day, or I don't watch them at all because it's too much. It's overwhelming to try to watch other people while you're on Zoom. But I love that sense of community that I get from the live classes. And then afterwards, you always ask if we have questions or if we want to talk about anything. So that opportunity to talk to you is huge. But that said, I also love the recorded classes, because sometimes if I miss a class, I'll go, oh, but okay, well, this evening I'm going to do a recorded one, or this weekend I'll do an extra recorded one because I didn't get enough this week. So I'm glad that you offer both.
Yeah. And she almost, we're on vacation, right? And she almost got up. We're in a different time zone. She almost got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do your, what was it, a 6 o'clock class?
Thursday.
Would it be like 5 a.m. or something?
It was 6 Denver time, so 5
I know, and
Arizona
she totally
time.
was going to do it, but I was like, Mom, just sleep in. It's recorded. You can do it later.
And I did.
But Sculpt Flow, we have so much fun at Sculpt Flow on Thursday mornings. I love it. That's so awesome. What does Uwe mean to you?
Oh, I think of it like something that comes from the yin and the yang, the crow and the camel. So everything that we do, we should, and it's also the whole posture training thing too. As I hunch over here, there are times when it's appropriate to be forward. There are times when it's appropriate to be backward. But we want to find the balance in life, and the balance in our bodies and our skeletons and in our minds. So Wu Wei to me is that balance that we strike after we go out and exercise hard, but then we rest, but then we find balance for our daily lives. So that's what it means to me. And when we end class saying that, I think, okay, it's like a big breath. Okay, now I can go back to just normal life.
I'm telling you what, Morgan, I think you can really feel what I'm feeling right now when you realize that what you've been teaching has really been absorbed by your community, right? that I'm making sense, that what I'm teaching is something important, and these podcasts are teaching me that the work that we're doing together is powerful. It's good, and I love it. And do you feel like Uwe follows you out of our studio and into your everyday life?
I do. I don't think of it as Uwe when I'm thinking about things in life, but I do I find myself always saying, okay, what's the balance here? Or what's the middle ground? Or how do I make this easier? So yeah, so I'm always sort of seeking it, even though I don't
love it.
connect the dots directly. But I do think that your lived experience contributes so much to that holistic view that you give us in class and with Uwe, and the back and forth of the movements that we're doing. So you contribute so much because you have such lived experience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a blessing for sure in a way.
in a way.
Yeah, in a way.
And also you have a teenager, so right? So
yeah, almost teenager. He's only going to be 12 in a couple weeks, so he's not quite a teenager.
More to come then.
Yeah, more to come. So what do you think has been your greatest lesson? What's the most you've learned about your AgeDEFY experience or about yourself during this experience?
Interestingly, what I've really learned, first I'll say, as I've gotten older, through many different experiences, I've learned that I can learn, that I can make progress in my work life, way back, when I was going to school, in my academic life. I slowly over the years, I have figured it out that if I just keep at something, I can learn it. I can learn it. But I think to really round out that whole concept of, consistency is important, and you can learn this and just keep chipping away at it. Since I retired last summer, and I didn't know if I could really commit to a consistent practice. I mean, Morgan was certainly encouraging me to. When she told me, you have to exercise every day, you have to do something every day, Mom, I was like, what? What? I don't have time for that. But I have learned that if it's important to me, I can. And it is important to me because now that I am aging, I have little aches and pains and arthritis showing up here and there. And I think, okay, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep moving. So.
But I have aches and pains, and when I say movement heals, I also say, Morgan, I say something. I want to know what you think about this. I say, once injured, always injured. What does that feel to you when I say that?
So that I can actually comment on, because we were having a discussion with one of my patients and also friends yesterday, and she had a really traumatic ankle injury and a very complex surgery to basically reconstruct her ankle. And I worked with her and did her rehab, and her range of motion just isn't ever going to be the same as it was before because it was such a traumatic injury. And one thing that was very troublesome for her, because she's young and active and has all of these things she wants to do, and she really struggled with it. But I felt my roles in her therapy and her recovery was to help her figure out strategies to work with her new environments and her new range of motion, and help her figure out, well, you can still snowboard and rock climb and hike. It's not going to feel the same, and it's just not. But there's ways that you can do it anyways, and there's ways that you can still have an amazing time and functionally be the same as you were before, even though it's going to feel differently.
Oh my goodness, Morgan, you and I are the same. I am not joking you. We are the same, because that's my message to people. Okay, I'm never going to be the same, but I am going to get around my limitation and go beyond it. It's not that I can just ignore the fact that I have 2 new hips, or that I've been cut open, that I have scar tissue build up here, that I have aches and pains, that I have tight muscles. It's the fact that I keep showing up, and I do not let it slow me down. I even go beyond what the limitations are. So maybe I'm never going to be the same, but I'm still an injured mover, and I need to treat my body as an injured mover, but I also need to reach beyond that injury. And that is the message that I tell everyone. But I do think that my message sometimes gets messed up, and I think the message of PT or rehab even gets messed up, is that, okay, after PT, you're going to be healed. No, you got to work on that injury for the rest of your life. It's not, you don't work 6 weeks and rehab your ankle and you have you're perfectly fine. You have to keep working on it for the rest of your life. Once injured, always injured. So we're aligned like that. So you feel good me saying that as you as a physical
absolutely.
therapist?
And I do think that's a tough pill for people to swallow.
Definitely.
And it's a hard conversation to have, but I also agree. I think it's the reality. And let's say, you know, you have an ACL surgery, you're going to get arthritis when you're older.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a surgery, you're going to get an arthritic changes in the joint when you're older. You may feel it, you may not, but it's going to happen. And so you have to find ways to work around that.
Do you think they're ever going to find a cure for arthritis? I'm serious. Like stem cells, have you done the PT world doing any research in stem cells?
So, one thing that there are some doctors that I work with, they're doing PRP injections, like protein rich plasma. And that actually, I've seen that to be impactful, but more so for like chronic and severe like tendinopathies.
That's my dog, just so you know.
What was that?
My dog is like making these weird noises. So sorry. I just was like, okay, Maya. Okay, keep going though. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So the PRP stuff that I've seen has been more impactful in my experience and seeing it with several patients for more like tendinopathies and soft tissue pathologies. In terms of arthritis, stem cells can certainly be something that is helpful and may help to push the arthritis down the road a little bit, but I don't think it's something that, at least at this point, has been shown to actually cure arthritis, right?
I also believe that there's a placebo effect in a lot of things. I think if people think their stem cell stuff is working, then they do have this moment of like, oh, it's worked or whatever. So I hesitate to ever, I try to tell people, what I tell people is I can't depend on anybody else for my pain relief. I can only depend on myself and movement. And that is it. Because, you know, you can't always go to a chiropractor. You can't always go to a massage therapist. Not everyone has their access to a PT, right? So to me, I just am filling in that space for those people that just don't have that type of access. I really want people to learn how to be their own healer and to rely on themselves, you know, in general, because.
Well, and you got to remember too, that arthritis, that's joint inflammation. So I think that one of the best things that you can do for arthritic changes is decrease the inflammation. And there's so many different ways that you can go about doing that. Nutritionally, you can eat an anti-inflammatory diet. You can do things like immobilizing the joint when you're sleeping. I actually just made my mom like a hand brace to wear for her thumb arthritis when she's sleeping.
Still working?
I've only been using it a few days, but it's not getting worse.
Yeah. So did you make it?
I'm optimistic. Yeah.
Morgan, you made it for her? Kind of like
I made it out of thermoplastic. So I'm not a hand therapist by any means, but I work really closely with one. And so we have this like thermoplastic that you can put in boiling water and it softens, and then you shape it around.
Ooh. Interesting.
Yeah.
I love it. So I mean, yeah, Morgan, I think one day we should have a podcast and just talk about all this PT,
right?
And the line we're on.
We could go on for hours.
Yeah, for sure. And so Stephanie, if someone new were to watch our podcast today and then sign up for the AgeDEFY membership, what would your advice be to someone brand new to the AgeDEFY Way?
My advice would be for them to have an open mind and be really patient with themselves. Because I think for people who jump in, I had the benefit of having some private sessions with you before I began the program. So you oriented me to some of the movements that you do and some of your philosophies. But if I was just jumping into the program, I might think things this is really different. How is this benefiting me? I can't do this anyway, or it doesn't feel good. So I would tell them to just really be patient. You have to have the big picture, and it takes a little time to kind of get the big picture about what you are doing and what you are trying to accomplish with us.
I mean, that's just it. That's just everything right there. Seriously, what a beautiful answer. And I hope that people listen to what you just said and then just dive in. And even on my website, you know, everyone asks me, how do I start? And I'm like, I don't know. You just dive in.
You have to. Yeah.
Because I say something, Morgan, I say, movement reveals all. It's a Martha Graham quote, which Martha Graham is a beautiful dance choreographer. But she said, movement reveals all. And I read that one day and I just said, that's it. That's it, right? You have to do all these different workouts of mine to be revealed of what's going on. But the different workouts, from bar to mobility flow to flow motion to chi flow to all those workouts, reveals where you're weak, right? Where you lack range of motion. So I don't know where to tell people to start, but then after they start for a while and they do it, then I can help them, because they tell me, oh, I can't do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I know where the problem is. Let's fix it, right? So that's kind of it. So it's hard for people to get started. What about live classes? What would you say for a beginner if they wanted to do a live class?
Oh, I think that's the best for a beginner, is, although that's not always going to be the case. Some people are going to be, based on their schedule, they're only going to be able to do the recorded online classes. But with the live classes, I would tell them to take advantage of that period of time after the class where you ask people if they have questions or comments, and to actually engage with you so that they can understand better what they need to do to improve the benefit.
Exactly, but they wouldn't even know until they start taking the movement. They have to do it first and then tell me what movement feels good, what movement doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Then I can help, right? So I think you're right. I have it on the FAQ. Just try to come to one live class a month and do after class coaching with me a month, right? Like make time for one live class, you know? I know the schedule's limited, but there's still 8 classes on the schedule every week. So, you know, one live class a month could really help people in the online world, don't you believe?
Oh, I think so. Definitely. Yeah. If they're willing to actually speak up and engage with you. Yeah.
But you know what? You got to. People just have to get over it. They have to get over it. If you want new results, you have to do new things, right?
Right.
You have to put yourself out there and move weird. So I hope this conversation definitely encourages people to just go for it, because your story is a beautiful story of just going for it. And look at 2-3 years later, look how things are for you. It's great, right?
Oh, yeah.
Strong.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad that I can still go mountain biking and hiking with my daughter. Yeah.
Well, Morgan, that year that she was retiring, right before she retired, our goal was, every time we met for a live class or any type of video program that I set for her, our goal was to get her ready for retirement so she could adventure with you. I'm not joking you. So the fact that we're here, it's a moment for me.
Yeah, that is, when you asked me my goals, that's what I said. I said, I want to be able to retire and do adventures with my daughter. So,
and I gotta say, like, my mom can do some pretty challenging hikes, like stuff that, like a lot of elevation gain and long distances. She can do it. So, and
it's mindset and body and ability, right? Yeah. I have goosebumps. I love you both. Thank you so much for, putting your adventure today on hold for this podcast and sharing your stories. And Morgan, big hug. It's so good to connect to you again.
Thank you.
I know. I hope you both have such a beautiful day.
We will. And you too, Donnell. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.